I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Corporate officer, any late items? No late items. If I get an approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Betts, Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? That carries. Consent agenda. Would anybody like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Councillor Peak.
I'd like to remove the correspondence F Summerland Food Bank.
Okay, that will go into item 11. Anyone else? Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was just a couple of UBCM resolutions, A and B, please.
Okay. Stay in place. Anyone else? We get approval of the consent agenda as amended. Councillor Betts, Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? That carries. Where are we now? Oh, my report. There we go. Okay. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been responding to queries from the media and the public about the provincial government's decision to override our local zoning and approve a gravel pit at the end of Garnet Valley. The property in question is zoned forestry grazing, which does not allow for natural resource extraction. It's an environmentally sensitive area, and there are concerns about the impacts to both terrestrial and riparian wildlife habitats, as well as to recreation and tourism and to our municipal infrastructure. On behalf of council, I've written to the Minister of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation, requesting that she overturn the decision. The Penticton Indian Band, MLA Dan Ashton, Summerland Chamber of Commerce, local tourism associations, agricultural producers, recreation and community groups, and many, many local residents have also written to the minister asking her to reconsider. With this widespread community support, council will be meeting with the minister in person in 2 weeks' time at the Union of BC Municipalities Annual Convention, where we will appeal to her to reverse the decision. Also, over the last couple of weeks, Deputy Mayor Traynor and I have been fielding media queries on council's call for the federal and provincial governments to ban non-compostable plastic produce stickers, which is one of 4 resolutions that council is bringing forward to UBCM. On Friday, I joined Cameron Bond, the Environmental Services Coordinator for the District of Summerland, to tour global news around our organics processing facility. We saw firsthand a large amount of plastic that had come in from the green curbside collection bins. We also saw how the plastic is removed from the compost, except for the produce stickers, which are too small to be screened out. Until such a time that those stickers become compostable, we must continue to ask residents to remove stickers from fruit and vegetable skins before placing them in the green carts. Finally, as Summerland continues to suffer from a rash of vandalism and graffiti, besides being costly to clean up for both the district and for businesses, vandalism and graffiti causes public safety issues and makes the community appear unsafe and unsightly. Property damage is a serious offense. However, Summerland is spread out over 74 square kilometers, so it isn't feasible for the RCMP or district bylaw officers to be out everywhere at all hours looking for vandals. With an increasing number of security cameras, we are better able to identify suspects. However, like law enforcement officers, cameras can't be everywhere. We therefore need members of the public to keep their eyes open and report incidents of vandalism. We also need members of the public with information about who is responsible for these incidents to contact the Summerland RCMP detachment. And that's my report. I'll ask the CEO for his, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's been a fun week with film crews in and about the community making a new Hallmark Christmas movie. It's a great reminder how special a place we live in for it to be profiled in a storybook style that the world will get a small snapshot into this Christmas season. The filming continues on parts of Main Street this week with any temporary closures posted on the district website. The filming is all pre-approved by the district and permit fees and any costs are reimbursed. But there are, of course, economic spin-off benefits as well, with crew members and support workers staying in and around the community and small businesses being engaged for some of the food and other services required for this kind of production. The province is starting to respond to our request for meetings at the upcoming Union of BC Municipalities meetings in Vancouver. Currently, we have meetings arranged with the Municipal Affairs Minister regarding funding for the replacement of the Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center, general funding for infrastructure requirements related to Bill 44, and a meeting has also been confirmed with the Minister of Health regarding a primary care center in the community. A meeting with the Minister of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation on a proposed proposed backup connection to the BC Hydro grid is also been confirmed. And in the same meeting, I understand that council intends to bring up concerns on the recently approved Garnet Valley gravel pit. We are still awaiting a response from the Minister of Environment and Climate Change Strategy on the concept of PACE financing that would support BC residents in making environmentally friendly home improvements. Meeting with the health ministry staff on aquamation cremation will be arranged outside of the conference at their request, given that some of their key health staff on that subject are unable to attend the event. A meeting with BC assessment staff has been confirmed. Finally, just as a reminder to residents, the Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center will be closed from August 24th to September 8th for annual maintenance. We are trying to complete the roof work at the same time, but it is expected that this work will take a bit longer than the regular maintenance window. People can expect the fitness room to reopen on September 9th at 6:30 a.m., but the pool will remain closed a little while longer just while we finish up the roof work on that section we're working on. With that, I conclude my report.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions for either of us? No, we'll move on to delegations. So I'd like to ask Dion Eden to come on up representing the Penticton Disc Golf Club.
Good afternoon, Mayor Doug Holmes and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present Trappers Disc Golf Course this afternoon. This is a 18 to 36 hole disc golf course. It's a safe, fun, challenging layout. Design avoids the parking lot, uses existing multi-use trails, and avoids environmentally sensitive areas. We consulted with local stakeholders on the final design. Conflict mitigation strategies include respecting other users out in the course and the area. We consulted with the Dirt Bike Club. We were consulting with the Summerland Rodeo Grounds. I spoke with Sandra last week about this. Seems very positive. Three Blind Mice is a multi-use, including horseback riding out there. We've had no conflict with other users. We're going to put a kiosk with signage and to educate and inform the value of benefits of disc golf at the trailhead. And at the trailhead, there's enough room for 47 to 50 cars for parking. It's a flat, easy to develop area. There'll be a kiosk with orange indicated in the middle with trail info and a garbage receptacle indicated by the yellow dot. Be very similar to the Conkle Trailhead of the Trans-Canada Trail, and the volunteer managed garbage cans will be done there. Environmental stewardship will be done by the Penticton Disc Golf Club. We'll clean existing debris, garbage, and unauthorized campsites. And disc golf courses are very environmentally friendly. They don't require any watering. Benefits include a new PE amenity for local students. Trappers is only 5 kilometers from Summerland Secondary, whereas Three Blind is 25 kilometers. This will be hosting leagues and tournaments there. It's a very supportive community on and off the disc golf course. And there's positive physical and mental benefits of the disc golf experience and the beautiful views up there. It's a very inclusive sport. We host women tournaments and men and all sorts of stuff. Installation maintenance will be done by the Penticton Disc Golf Club. Will provide ongoing maintenance. It's temporary, non-permanent infrastructure with locking baskets to prevent theft, paving stone for tee pads. Signage will be done for the kiosk and other signage to help you through the course, trails, and volunteer labor will save about $6,000 per 9 holes. It'll be a phased installation to reduce initial costs. And the Penticton Disc Golf Course has the resources and expertise to do this. We've installed numerous courses around the Okanagan, including Pine Park and Caramis. It's a wheelchair accessible course. Cobalt Park in Cawston and Marina View N3 Blind Mice in Penticton. There's a large local disc golf community with lots of passionate volunteers who would love to help out with this project. The Penticton Disc Golf Club is a nonprofit society and has insurance through the BC Disc Golf Association for club that hosted events like tournaments and leagues. The club has a license use agreement with the city of Penticton that allows the club to use and maintain 2 local disc golf courses for public use, and the club is open to a license use agreement with the District of Summerland. Costs are all front end for a disc golf course. It's an equipment, installation, labor. It's about $37,000 for an 18-hole course and about $56,000 for a 36-hole course. Funding can be done through sponsorship, through government grants, the gaming grants, business sponsorship, private sponsorship, and clubs like the Penticton Disc Golf Club. We currently have sponsor bill for this project. We have 36 free targets. We can contribute to it. And again, the club can save upwards of $12,000 per 18 holes. Trappers Disc Golf Course will provide value for students, residents, businesses, and the community with a new high-value sports amenity for low cost. It's going to bring in disc golf tourism, boost the local economy, and provide a challenging technical course to attract players of all skill levels. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Eden? Councillor Barkwell.
How did you come to choose this particular spot to lay out your designs and stuff? Because the reason I ask is that we've done environmental assessments on the area and everything in preparation, as that's our long-term growth area for housing. So there'd be a lot of unhappy people when the time came that this golf course had to move because we want to develop that land. But I can see possibilities as, say, a buffer on the other side of the road next to the landfill. That kind of seems more attractive to me as a location, but I don't know what your considerations were.
Well, I grew up in Summerland. I graduated from the secondary, and as a kid, I dirt biked and hiked and mountain biked all these trails. And I seen the rodeo grounds proposal, and wasn't sure that was the right area. I thought this was a better location. It's got a tiered design, so people can access it better than 3 Blind Mice. And just the general usage of it right now, like dirt biking and stuff, it's kind of torn up. You can see you guys probably know a bit up there a bit. It's a bit of a dumping site. And it's just some things that I really focused on that I could see that could improve the area and make it more vital for the community.
Councillor Malcolm.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm quite excited. I did like the proposal that came to the rodeo grounds. I think it's a great amenity for the community and for young and old. So I'm supportive, but if you could pull your microphone a little closer to you for any other questions, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.
No problem. Sorry about that.
Councillor Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for the presentation today. It's always nice to see new ideas come forward. And as discussed, we saw a disc golf proposal come forward with rodeo grounds, and it just wasn't quite the right fit, that location. So I appreciate that the Penticton Disc Golf Club has stayed just really engaged in trying to bring this to Summerland. A couple things I like about it is really low cost and getting people outside. It can be for families, it can be for teens, it can be, for a lot of different user groups. And I think that that's really great. I think having different ways to encourage people to be outside without having to invest in like mountain bikes and stuff or ATVs, which tear up our environment. But sometimes it can just be a lower cost item, and it's nice to see those opportunities come up. I think Councillor Burkwell's comment is really valid and something to consider for the long-term growth of Summerland would eventually end up in that area. So with time, there could be a need to move, but that time might be a ways out.
What's your time frame on that?
Sir, I don't.
Okay, well, then, like that's fine then. We could, have a course there for maybe potentially 10 years and then find something else, another solution down the road, so.
Right, it's nice to hear that, that kind of feedback because, you can always be flexible and have something that's not a high investment kind of course to begin with, and then you can always see other items nearby. So, just nice to see those two components. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Trainer, then Pat, and then Teak.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your presentation. I'm totally supportive of this sport. I think it's really, really neat. And again, the more people can get outside, the better. I'm just wondering, how does it work with other users? Like if you're trying to play a game of disc golf and there's motorbikes or dirt bikes or whatever, like how do you work through that?
Well, we just don't throw in whether people are in the area. Like, so if we see walkers and stuff, and the sight lines on the course that we have so far is fairly open, but we're consulting with the horseback and the dirt bike, and I want to make sure it's safe for everybody up there, so we can all enjoy the area and not take over. Like that's not the idea. The idea is to share the area.
So you can play a game while I see heads nodding. Okay, that's all I want.
Yeah. So if somebody's like for three blind mice, like dirt or pedal bike or mountain bikers will come through, we'll be very observant. We'll say stop, wait, throw, and it's very safe. There's, as I said, there's no incidents at either course up there. We have horseback riders, all sorts of stuff going on in there, and there's no big deal.
Councillor Pat.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you. Great presentation. I think this is phenomenal. How does the fee structure work for your members? Is there a membership fee? And then is there like a conventional golf course where there's a fee paid to play 9, 18, 36?
Well, Penton Disc Golf Club, our fees are $20 for membership, and that covers the year. And we have a yearly club appreciation for free for our members. It includes food and prizes and so forth. As far as paying for courses, there's very few courses that have to pay out there. The one I can think of right now, the closest one is Cascades in Christina Lake. $5 is on a golf course. So most courses like Three Blind Mice, Marina View, Osuya, or Oliver, Karamias, Kelowna, they're all free to play.
Thank you.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is an exciting opportunity. I think to get people out is a wonderful thing. I was concerned about safety and I'm concerned with interaction with other people using the area. And so I want those discussions to remain open. And are there protocols that you post for your players when they're playing?
It's generally, we are very respectful community, and we make sure we don't want to hit anybody with a disc, right? So we make sure before we throw, we're making sure it's clear, if everybody's safe. And if we do have a big tournament out there, it's posted, and that's the time when the course would be shut down for other players because it's too dangerous, right? So we make sure that we're well informed. That would be signage on Facebook or social media, and also posted at the site. So that's what we do with Three Blind when we have a big tournament, and it doesn't shut down the area for mountain bikers or hikers. We just have that informed, and we let them know there's players out there.
Thank you very much. It's an excellent presentation and I read everything you sent to us. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Councillor Barco.
Yeah. There is, I go back, I'm sort of like north and south side of the road. Definitely there's a whole lot more use on the north side of the road. I think you should consult with Lori Mullen, our director of whatever the recreation, and talk about it, and conceptually it's, it's all the things that everybody's been saying. It's a great idea, but I'm not sure about the exact location. That might interfere with other uses, less on the south side of the road. It might have a longer life. It was on the south side of the road because that's not the first place we're going to build any housing, is next to the landfill. And so I don't know how it fits with the layout of the course, but I think you should have some further talks.
Yeah, I've been consulting with Lori from the beginning with everything, and she's connected with the Dirt Bike Club and the Rodeo Association, so she's helping out to make me connect with everybody who I need to. The south side there, I know what you mean, and I'm not entirely I don't think that's a great spot, just because it's not as open, there's not enough space, and it's right on the cliff, right? So I don't like that location because of the cliff side close to the dump, where you guys have fenced off there. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I think the location that I picked chosen is a lot more better for multi-use, like with the dirt bikers and mountain bikers and everybody else using it already. That's just my opinion, but if you're like, if a long-term housing development is like, it's something that you're concerned about, that's something we can address down the road. But currently, if we're able to put this up here, we're able to provide something for the community now. What would be really good for say whatever term, and then maybe move it to another location that's more appropriate down the road.
So you're saying that's sort of a faster and easier site to develop? Yeah?
There's already trails there and there's already usage there. We wouldn't have to take down the fencing and create a whole new area. It'd be a lot less expensive.
Councillor Riddle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited. I like it. I'm one of those avid ATV riders that doesn't tear up the environment, but anyways, you go west of Summerland to the Trans-Canada Trail. It's a multi-use trail. I've come around a corner, there's horseback riders. You pull over, they're courteous, I'm courteous. You run into mountain bikers, hikers, fellow ATVers. Sure, there's always going to be the odd radical one. But the nice thing up at Trappers is I think the majority of users there are young families.
Yeah.
Dad's taking the kids out, mom and dad are taking the kids out for, to learn how to ride their dirt bikes, to have some fun. And it's close to town, and it's an area for everybody to enjoy. So I commend you. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you, Mrs. Mullen, for helping them out.
I just want to add one more thing in regards to the location. I did look at Upper Trappers and the Test of Humanity area a little bit. And I felt like Upper Trappers was more used by dirt bikers, and I felt like Test of Humanity was more, that area to the east is more used by horseback riders, and the sight lines aren't quite as nice. It's tighter. So I wanted to stay away from that and provide a safe area where it would be, everybody could use it and be safe.
Councillor Betts.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm just wondering, the costs and funding and sponsorship, it says here the front end costs are kind of 37,000 for 18, 56,000 for 36. So how do we envision this moving forward? Like, are you looking for the rec department to come forward with this money, or in council to come forward with this money? Or, is Penticton looking to contribute towards it? What do you think?
Well, so we have that mostly planned out. We could install this course tomorrow, honestly. We have enough targets for it. We do have some sponsorship already contribute to this project who was just waiting for it to start. We have the labor, which is the same, around $18,000 per 18 holes. The targets are for 18 holes is around 12,000, I'm thinking, just off the top of my head. So, so take that up 36 right there. So that we're looking at maybe 10 grand, right? Which is not that big a deal. And that's things I could source out. We could all source out and get sponsors for that kind of stuff too, I believe. I can't see us being an issue. We would have no trouble putting this in. It wouldn't come, we're not asking for anything for you guys at this point. We are asking for your help. That would be great. But if you can contribute in other ways, as I put in the proposal about for next year and having things to set up where there is a disc golf fund or something coming from you guys. So we're willing to contribute the lion's share of it, but we want some help as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Eden. We'll be discussing this shortly.
Okay. So, thank you very much for your time, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Now we move on to the public comment period for any of the business items. Any members of the public, like, just come up and state your name and civic address and just push the button so the red light comes on. Thanks.
My name is Sean Black. I'm a resident of Penticton. I'm the founding president of the Penticton Disc Golf Club. We started the club in 2014, a group of 5 of us, and have grown the club up to over 100 members now. We have as Dion said in his presentation, we operate 2 disc golf clubs in Penticton. In 2015, we went to the city of Penticton and asked for permission to install and build the Three Blind Mice disc golf course, which is an 18-hole course up in the Three Blind Mice area off Riddle Road. So they supported us in doing that. We did a license to use agreement with them. So that's city-owned land that we've got a license to use. It's a non-exclusive agreement. We're layered on that site with the PACA, which is the Penticton Area Cycling Association. They have a license to use agreement also on the same property for the mountain biking. So we coexist with those guys very well, have good relationships with them. There was a question asked earlier about, what do you do when you confront or see other users on the property? We just wait. Mountain bikers are gone in seconds. Hikers are gone in a few more seconds. It's easy, to coexist with these folks. As Dion has said, you try to design the courses so that there is less potential for, that kind of conflict. Just going a little more into history here too with us, we also have the 9-hole rotary Marina View disc golf course above the marina in Penticton. It is a 9-hole course that the Rotary Club in town sponsored for us and helped us to fundraise for. We have a licensed use agreement on that site also with the city. So the Penticton Disc Golf Club has almost 10 years of experience building, operating, maintaining disc golf courses on municipal owned land shared with other users. So you're not dealing with a brand new organization. We have a track record here, and we've done it quite successfully. We're seeing tremendous growth in the sport, and we think that the potential that we see out in that site on Trappers is you guys could have a top 5 disc golf course in the province probably out there that'll attract people. I was just in Alberta on the weekend playing in a tournament. Hundreds of people travel for these things. It's massive. Going to Clearwater in 2 weeks for the Canadian Championships, there's 600 people descending on Clearwater for that tournament up there. So, we can host tournaments and events. There's tons of disc golf tourism. Three Blind Mice is the 4th rated highest course in the province of BC. People are traveling from all over Canada to play that course in Western North America. We meet American, Washington, Idaho people up there playing, Californians, people from Ontario, Quebec, Alberta playing it. So disc golf is maybe a small niche sport, but it's growing and it certainly has potential to economically have some benefit for you, but also, as mentioned earlier, it's a low barrier sport. The cost to play is very, very low. You need one disc, $20 or whatever. You can buy them at the store in town. And that's all you need. There's no green fees to pay. Environmentally, they're very friendly. You're not taking acres and acres of land and cutting down, planting grass, growing grass, maintaining that. They're very low environmental impact. We found that they've had benefit. The Marina View site in Penticton used to be a hangout for homeless people and drug users and hobos and stuff like that. They don't go there anymore because the disc golfers are in there. They don't want to be around that. So it deters some of the unsavory activity you get in some of the areas also. So we think that the potential on that site up in Summerland here, like I say, is very real and good. We think we can build a top 5 course there that will attract people. We would love to see eventually 2 18-hole courses out there capable of holding large tournaments. That would have benefit for the community here in Summerland and the region. The question about future use of the land, low installation, some holes, some concrete for the baskets, T-pads, which we use paving stones, 2x2 paving stones. They can come out.
Just have to ask you to wrap up.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
To install and remove one of these courses is not insurmountable. So, if the land use changed out there and you decide you need it for future housing, it's not an insurmountable thing to remove that and get that. But we would love to have the opportunity to create a course out there if you support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to comment? Let's come up to the podium, sir. State your name, civic address, and which agenda item you wish to speak to.
My name's Cody Young, and I live at 13610 Kenyon Road. I'm just speaking to the disc golf course. I just want to point out there was going to be a lot more of us here today. Just people can get time off of work to come and comment, and I just wanted to kind of reiterate the excitement about a possible course out here. I've talked to a lot of players who, have families and are busy and they can't drive out to Three Blind Mice. Maybe they can get out on a Saturday, but the fact that the potential there could be one in town where they can, put their kids down at night and then go out and exercise for an hour and a half is a major thing. So I just wanted to comment to that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yep.
Hello, my name is Andrew Best. I'm the current president of the Kelowna Disc Golf Association. We've been trying for years to create more opportunities to play in the area. In conversations with other clubs up and down the valley, we were hoping to create a corridor of disc golf from Oliver all the way up to Clearwater to create tournament series for opportunities for people to play. Our course in Kelowna right now, Knox Mountain, we are developing a couple of players that are now Canadian champions. It's the competitive side of the sport is very exciting as well. And creating more opportunity for them to have other locations to develop their skills is very exciting. Also with Kelowna, unfortunately, we are having exceeding problems finding other locations to put in a course to the point where we'll be actually probably losing our Knox Mountain course for a year due to an infrastructure project. So any other opportunity to get people out in the outdoors to play would be exciting for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep, come on up.
Hi, my name's Elaine Vickers. I live in Okanagan Falls, and I'm currently the president of the Penticton Disc Golf Club. And I wanted to reiterate that we are super excited about this proposal for a new course. It would mean the potential to having some more tournaments here. We're restricted at 3 blind mice with parking, which it wouldn't be an issue at this site. And I'm also I'm participating in organizing a women's series. And so we are trying to get more females involved in the sport. And we have had small successes, but I think having another course would open up some more potential to collect some more ladies to participate in the sport. So just wanted to reiterate that we're all behind Dion, and the Penticton Disc Golf Club is super excited to be part of this project if it should go through.
Okay, thank you very much. And anyone else? Okay, so we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the Summerland Disc Golf proposal. I'll turn this over to Lori Mullen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, Council. As a follow-up to the delegation presentation on the disc golf proposal for a portion of 17400 Highway 40, which is District of Summerland property commonly known as Lower Trappers, staff are requesting Council's consideration of the proposal and direction on next steps. Should Council support the project in principle, the Disc Golf Club would proceed with a temporary use permit application process as the property is zoned forestry grazing. And as this is an environmental sensitive development permit area, the club would be required to engage a qualified environmental professional to complete a memo or report to satisfy the development permit requirement for this project, which they are aware of. Following the receipt of the temporary use permit, staff would draft a license of occupation that would be non-exclusive use for the subject property for Council's consideration. Funding sources for the project would need to be confirmed by the club prior to proceeding with the initial phases. Staff have recommended that the trail use agreement be completed by the club, including our engagement. So I have put Dion in contact with several of the user group contacts, and it is recommended that they engage with those groups prior to confirming the layout and in order to mitigate any user conflicts. There is kind of a connection trail that goes right through the property, and I think that's important to maintain so that people that are either on horses or mountain bikes or dirt bikes that are able to just go through that corridor and access the trails beyond. The proposal indicates that the total costs for an 18-hole course, as mentioned by Dion in his presentation, range from $34,000 to $37,000, and 36 course between $51,000 and $56,000, which could be implemented in phases. The initial basic course installation is costed at $10,000, mainly for signage and paving stones for tees, as he has mentioned. Staff have recommended that the Disc Club seek partnership opportunities through organizations like service clubs for funding and volunteer support, as well as to seek out grant applications. The cost of to apply for the temporary use permit is $1,000. So staff are recommending that Council consider using unallocated funds from the 2024 Grant and Aid program to cover this fee. Staff are recommending that any further requests for funding from the District of Summerland should be considered through future intakes of the Grant and Aid program, and the program has been shared with the club for the 2025 intake for the application process for that. And I'll just close with commending Dion for all the work that he's done to put together this proposal. He's put in a lot of work back and forth with me with lots of questions, and we've had a lot of people come forward to me saying the importance of a disc golf course in Summerland, and I've shared all those contacts with him, and he's worked together collaboratively with all the people that have come forward to me. So he's done a really good job putting this information together. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Council questions? I'll go to Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through to Lori. I mean, I find it a little bit disturbing that we would want these folks to get an environmental study done. The first group of people that have ever come along to do something and ask for permission to do it. Meanwhile, you got your horseback riders, your mountain bikers, your ATVers, your dirt bikers, your partiers, your illegal camp, you know, like everybody else uses this property. Not one has ever been asked to get a permit, to have an environmental permit done. But somebody legit comes along and all of a sudden we want them to get a permit. Like, can we not avoid that step? I think they would do more betterment to this property than it's ever been done. Thank you.
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Elfen. I will defer to the Director of Development Services as this is his permitting process, and that's one of the requirements, my understanding, through the temporary use permit. So I was just sharing that information to give them a heads up as how that works, but
my apologies, Lori, for taking it to you.
I'm just following process.
Through your worship to Councillor Elvin. Yeah, I'm used to those type of questions. You know, unfortunately, like I'm the rules guy for the District of Summerland, and these are the rules. And so when a proposal comes forward to the District of Summerland, we can't ignore our official community plan, which is where our environmentally sensitive development permit resides. There are some exemptions within that development permit area for District of Summerland utility and infrastructure maintenance, but that's a pretty broad application to this proposal. If we were, myself as the development officer, was going to utilize that, I don't see this being utility or infrastructure related. So again, that's just my interpretation of our OCP.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Worship. Mine questioning was in regards to how eloquently Councillor Van Elfen spoke of the QEP. The one statement or comment I would like to make is that I believe that the purview around this table is if we decided not to do a QEP, that we could. And I get where Brad is going, but I do believe that that with the amount of motocross bikes that you can watch go in every direction on that property, I can't see where a qualified environmental professional would be required in this regard. And I need to follow Councillor Van Elfen totally on this, that I think it would be a waste of fundraising dollars that these people would have to put through to pay the fees of to get a professional in there. Thank you.
Can anybody on staff speak to any potential consequences if we just waive that?
Your worship, Councillor Patton. Again, there are some things within our exemption section that allow district contractors as well as staff to do work on infrastructure utilities. Again, it's a broad extension of that, if you're going to, council was to consider that using that exemption for this use, in my opinion, doesn't mean that it's not impossible. I think that council needs to be advised that could be creating a bit of a precedent if there are other similar types of issues that come up in the future and council makes that interpretation that they're willing to consider it as a form of district infrastructure that would be allowed under that exemption. It is within your purview to make that decision. No, it's your OCP. But I think you just need to be cautious with making that exemption.
Councillor Barkwell, and then that's.
I guess Councillor Van Alphen brings up a really good point here. It'd be a waste of money. We did have an environmental assessment done on that property, the district's one. It was for a different purpose, but could we say, well, there's an environmental assessment on that property, we'll use that to satisfy this requirement. But my question goes back there a little bit deeper in that, why do we need a temporary use permit at all? Why can't we go straight to a license of occupation? I think that although I was, had some concerns about the location, development's so far off at the rate that we're going in Summerland, and it'll bring some order to a very disordered location. Sometimes it's bananas up there with 60 people and their motorcycles and collisions and serious conditions and serious injuries. So I think if there was this group there, it'll just clean up the site. And we should do what we can to accommodate that, and cutting red tape would be one way.
So again, I'll direct that to staff. What's the reason for a TUP rather than a license of occupation?
Yeah, right now this subject property is zoned forestry grazing within our zoning bylaw. So the use for like a park amenity, which I would consider this to be the proposed use, isn't allowed within the forestry grazing zone. Looking at the uses within the zone, there isn't any, I would say, that would fall within, that a disc golf would fall within that category for forestry grazing. So for that reason, in reviewing our zoning bylaw, if council wants to conform with our zoning bylaw, then a TUP or a rezoning would be required for this use.
So a rezoning would be a more laborious process. So this gives them 3 years and we can probably get it rezoned within 3 years. Is that the thinking? Follow up, Councillor Margol.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why, why that would be a little more laborious process. So couldn't we simply have a bylaw that on the agenda that says we'll add to this specific site the use of disc golf, and that sounds a lot easier than the whole TUP process. And then also in addition, having to eventually deal with it because the TUP expired.
Mr. Dolan.
Through the chair to Councillor Barkwell, that's definitely an option to council instead of the recommendation from staff here for a temporary use permit. Council, if they want to grant a more permanent option for this proposed use, it could be a site-specific amendment to the parcel to allow for this use within its forestry grazing zone. However, that's still a rezoning process. It's pretty straightforward, site-specific. For example, we've got one going later on tonight that's going to be requested for council to waive the public hearing. So it would be a very similar process to that, but it's still a rezoning, but that is an option to council.
Councillor Beth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I definitely appreciate this part of the discussion. I had a different question, and it was for our Director of Community Services. Does the rec department have an opinion on the development of an 18 versus a 36 hole course or opportunity?
Through the mayor to Councillor Betts, I think there's benefit to both. I think having a phased approach and starting with the 18 holes to see how successful that is. The benefit of having the larger course is the ability to draw tournaments, and that has the economic and tourism spin-offs to that. So there's definitely value. If the space allows for it, if there isn't the conflict with the users, we're able to mitigate the shared use in the space. I think there's definitely benefit for the larger courses.
Yeah, I think that's exactly, I think, what the main point is. It's, I was thinking about that as well. A phased approach of doing an 18 to begin and then seeing how it goes, versus the opportunity to actually bring larger groups here to our community, which would actually have knock-on effects almost immediately. I think is a very compelling thinking.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Trainer.
I was going to bring forward a motion, but I think I need a bit more discussion on the temporary use permit. Brad, what would be a quicker process, a temporary use permit or a rezoning or adding a use to that land?
Your worship, to Deputy Mayor Trainer, I think they're both the same. In my opinion, a TUP would have the same notification requirements to adjacent landowners as a rezoning. Especially if council was to consider waiving the public hearing requirement, which is also not required for TUP, it's pretty much the same type of a timeline for both applications.
I think that the advantage of the temporary use permit is it gives everybody an opportunity to see how it goes, and that's the purpose of a TUP. And then, I don't know, I've been on council long enough to know that rezonings don't always go quickly. So, anyway, let's have a bit more discussion. Councillor Peak.
Thank you. If it was to be a site-specific amendment or rezoning, I would like to know through the mayor to Brad, does that require the environmental assessment to do that?
Your worship, to Councillor Peak, there are two different types of development permits. So the temporary use permit deals only with the use. The environmentally sensitive development permit deals with it being located in an environmentally sensitive area. And I do want to clarify, so I'm getting messages from the corporate office here. She's pulled up one section of our zoning bylaw that says that if council was to consider this land as a park, then perhaps there would be no requirement as for a rezoning. But that nothing in our records have designated the Trappers area as a park within our park inventory. So even though there is a lot of recreation uses historically going on, but if council does want to go in that direction of designating this land as a park or just doing it through resolution, that would be an option.
Councillor Barkwell.
I don't like the idea of designating it as a park, because if we ever plan, because that conflicts with our long-term plan for housing. And if you call something a park and you attach that word to it, then you have a huge future conflict when you do try to develop and you're taking away parkland. Right now it's de facto parkland because people use it for whatever they want to use it. I see the advantage of going straight to a site-specific amendment as saving the cost, $1,000 of the TUP and the work of the TUP, and not duplicating something, because if it does work out, you still have to do the site-specific amendment in 3 years when the TUP's up, unless you extend it for another 3 years. Still, then after 6 years, you still have to do it. So you still have to do that. And if it doesn't work out, well, it sits there as a site-specific amendment as an allowable use and no harm done. But, that seems like an unlikely scenario and a no consequence scenario. So I'm thinking I would like to put forward a resolution that we go straight to a site-specific amendment and that we consider the environmental assessment previously done by the district for that land as sufficient for the use as a golf course.
Okay, second, Councilman Elfin. So we have a motion on the floor. What?
I'm not going to put that out. I'd like to hear more discussion before I put it out.
There's no more discussion. Just put it on the floor.
I'll put that motion on the floor. Anybody seconded?
Councilman Nelson, second. Okay, so we need to ask the corporate officer to kind of shape that into. Did you get what he said, more or less? Yeah, CAO? That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago, maybe. I don't have the date of it, but Ian might have been the director of development services at the time.
So 2015, 2016, something like that, probably. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a friendly amendment that we just not ask for QEP for the disc golf. Then we don't have to refer back to one that was done when Ian McIntosh was here, and we can carry forward.
So do I have a seconder for the amendment? We'll do it that way. Councillor Van Elfen, so any discussion on the amendment? Councillor Barco.
I don't really like it for the reasons that the director of development services, that's you can't really call it an infrastructure item, and so it doesn't it doesn't really sit well with doing things properly. Yet we still have the environmental assessment, and that gives it a little bit more color of legitimacy. That's all. But we can do what we want, and the next council can do what they want.
Councillor Bed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the having the opportunity for the specific use of the land exemption is a better fit than a TUP, in my opinion, because the TUP, as it's just a limit of 3 years, et cetera, it's hard for an organization to plan. Like to plan tournaments takes time, and to actually develop a following does take time. So you give an organization an opportunity for success when you give them certainty in that regard. I think that, it is a recreational area de facto, but that we don't want to rezone park because it's complicated, but it's not. So how do we cut the red tape and make it simple? But I think limiting to the 3-year terms is unnecessary. So if we could find that site specific use, to me, I think that makes the most sense.
So I think we're all kind of on the same page here. I think we all know it's just how do we get this shaped into a motion? And I don't know, CAO, I'm going to ask you, can we, or the corporate officer, can we come back to this later in the meeting? Or do you need time to figure this out?
We need time.
Yeah, sorry?
Need some time.
You need some time.
Yeah.
So can we table this until the end of the, later in the day?
I think we can. There wouldn't be anything preventing that.
Okay.
Tabling it, come back to it later in the meeting.
Okay, that's what I would suggest. Would that make sense? Because I think we're all agreeing. There's no disagreement here. We all think this is a great thing, will be great for the community, and I think there's general consensus that, that's the way to go. The site specific, all that. So should we just table it and let the corporate officer put a motion to maybe talk to Lori and figure out what that motion ought to be? Okay, Councilor Chair.
I personally don't think we need to table this. I think that we're almost there. I mean, I think tabling it just prolongs it. We had a friendly amendment on the table. So I think it was seconded. So that was to not need the QEP. So I think we need to resolve that. I don't think we need it because referring back to a report that's 20 years old, I don't know what the value in that is. And I look at these things on a case by case basis. And I don't think we're setting a precedent by not requiring a report for that piece of property. That property is already used. It's not like we're going to some random unused pristine piece of property and asking the golf people not to report. Like this property's already got, I mean, the environmental person will probably be mortified if they went out there and did a report right now because there's like trails everywhere. So I don't think that disc golf is gonna disturb it anymore. I actually think it'll enhance it. So I don't think we need that. I think that makes logical sense for this particular property. And then I think like, so then Councillor Bark will put on it for your motion was to do a land amendment, zoning amendment? Oh, site specific. So yeah, again, I think that makes sense. And then just go from there. So I think we just need to wrap up the discussion on the QEP, whether we think they need it or not. And then that's a friendly amendment. And then I think we had a motion on the table that I think is pretty straightforward. Maybe not. I don't know. That's how I see it.
Okay, well, I'll call the question on the amendment, whether we need the QEP or not. Okay, so all in favor of Patton's amendment that we waive the QEP? Any opposed? Councillor Bark was opposed, that carries. Okay, so now we have the motion on the table as amended. So we don't really know exactly what that motion is. Councillor Betts.
Just wondering if, as part of the discussion, do we need to put 18 or 36 target course in the motion?
Well, it's not in the staff one. So I don't think that's necessary.
Lori, the 18 hole versus 36, that could come at a later time. Like I think the group had proposed that a phased and you did as well. So we could start with.
Through the mayor to deputy mayor trainer. So it'll come back as a temporary use agreement. So I think the details of what it would look like at that time would come back in that report, whether it's phased in, depending on what funding they have available and what their proposal is. But if you have some direction around recommending starting with 18 holes, we can make sure that happens in the temporary use agreement. But we don't have that level of detail at this point yet. We're just looking for permission to use the land.
Just for clarification, I think the motion that was put forward was for an amendment to land use. So we wouldn't need a temporary use permit then, is that right? Okay. Okay.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Worship. So Lori, if they wanted to go to 36, they would not have to come back to us again, that whatever site specific we're doing will allow them to expand?
To your worship, to Councillor Patton, I wouldn't recommend that we put it in the wording of the zoning bylaw because it's a permanent thing for the property. I think that whether it's 18 or 36 holes can be decided by council and the group outside of the zoning and land use approval process.
CEO.
Yeah, thank you, your worship. The only caution I have with getting to a 36 right away is the parking. So if there is contemplation of large tournaments and that sort of thing, and I'm hearing numbers of up to 600, I don't think we know enough about how we're going to access an egress for parking. Fire department might want to vote on that in terms of their advice, but certainly if we can work with the group under a site-specific zoning that allows a course with the understanding we're going to start with something like 18 and maybe grow that over time, that would be my preference, and we can all learn through this.
Okay, Councillor Margot?
So isn't there a license of occupation portion of this? So could we put that in the motion? Just say I have a license of occupation for 18 holes. And another day they come back for a license of occupation of 36 holes or something. And the other question I have is the, and Councillor Patton keeps referring to a QE report, QEP report, but that's basically a QEP is a qualified environmental professional, right? And what we're really looking for is who, then they do the environmental assessments, the EAs. So we should, we're waiving the requirement for an EA, environmental assessment report, not the QEP. Yeah. If that's my understanding, but Brad would, yeah. Correct?
If I can jump in, actually, probably say environmentally sensitive development permit,
All right.
that be waived, but yeah, Councilor Barkhole's correct.
Okay, how are we coming on the motion there? And then is there an application fee for, there's no application fee at all now? If if you go for a site specific amendment?
Because this is the District of Summerland's property, like normally we would still pay ourselves for the rezoning application. That just helps finance for tracking as well as tracking applications. So yeah, I think Dave, you probably still want it in there. Yeah, for the fee. Yeah, it's $1,000 too. Yeah, same fee.
So we'll be paying ourselves from the grant and aid program. Okay, all right. And then that last bit we keep in as well, I guess, right? Okay. They're whispering. They're whispering. CO.
We're having Socratic debate over here just on the element of if we do want 18 holes, I guess it would have to be an amendment to this motion referenced 18 holes in the license of occupation. So that would be up to council, or we're just proceeding on the basis of common understanding. I suppose it depends which way you want to go on that.
Councillor Barkle.
In my original motion, I said to go with the site specific amendment. Well, maybe I didn't say on license of occupation. Well, I didn't, did I? Damn it.
Well, we can bring it.
Yeah, I'll just say I propose an amendment to the motion to add that a license of occupation be granted for an 18-hole golf course. Any seconders? No? Would that make it simpler in the long run?
Or just have a separate motion. This is why I think we should leave these guys to work on this while and come back to it.
One option for the chair is to take a 5-minute break for coffee. No?
Okay, 2:10, adjourn to 2:10.
I still need their direction to draft anything though.
Yeah, we'll talk about it on the break. We're gonna work it on the break.
Yeah. Okay, we're back. The motion that's up there, Councillor Barkwell. That's the motion you brought forward, is that correct?
Right, right. Parts of the way.
They're hard to find. There it is. Oxford Common and things. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Melvin, you're good seconding that? Okay, any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed, that carries. And then Councillor Barkman, do you want to bring that, the second one at the bottom there, that staff be directed to draft the license of occupation? Yeah, we just lost it. There it is, right at the bottom. So a seconder for that? Councillor Peak, any further Councillor Trainer?
So that says 18 hole, and can somebody just clarify for me again? Does that prevent a 36, or why do we need to have 18 mentioned specifically?
See you.
Yeah, through your worship. So the thinking is, and I saw lots of nodding over there with our disc golf friends, but with an 18 hole, we'd have that as license of occupation. We're going to learn through that. There's going to be things with that particular site even that might be different from other locations in terms of user frequency and that sort of thing. The parking issues, and then when the time is right to turn the channel to what may be a 36 hole, we will be able in that next license of occupation to specify any conditions or any requirements associated with that. So it'd just be an update to another license of occupation when that time comes.
Okay, and I just have one follow-up. How long is a license of occupation? Is it just as long as we allow it, or is there a timeline on it?
Through the mayor to the deputy mayor, it can be however long council permits. There's no legislative or set timeline. Council can make it for however long they so choose.
As of right now, it's just open.
We will have to draft the actual license with all the terms and anything else that needs to be included. So it'll come back to council for final.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
So at such a time when they want to go to a 36, then a new license of occupation would come to council? Yeah. Or not?
We would, because it would be a substantial change to the direction, we would bring forward probably an amendment, not a new license.
Okay. No further discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed, that carries. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Corporate Officer. Item 9.2, Summerland Rodeo Grounds, Equine Development Committee. Who's taking that? Director of Finance?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So thank you. And before council, there's a permissive tax exemption application from the Summerland Rodeo Grounds Equine Development Committee, which staff are seeking council direction on. So council will recall that the SRGEDC and the district recently have entered into a lease agreement for the use of a portion of the rodeo grounds. This lease makes that portion of lands taxable, and as such, a PTE request is before council today. Now, in reviewing the application, the committee is registered as a society, and their budgeted 2025 revenues are approximately $20,500, and their budgeted expenses are $40,250. Now, of that $40,250, approximately $13,500 are earmarked for property taxes. In conversations with the committee, they are hoping for 100% exemption so that they can try to establish fair rates for rentals and to try and get a handle on their expenses in their first year of operations. The committee has done some research, and they have noted that they have found 2 communities that have leases with equestrian facilities that do receive 100% exemptions, including the Peachland Riding Club as well as the Sunnyside in Surrey. As staff, we haven't been able to verify that one way or the other. We just found that out today. In terms of staff, we have reviewed the district's PTE policy, as well as the work that was done by council back in 2021. in trying to determine which category this application should fall under. We are recommending as staff a category 2, which provides a 90% exemption. So based on BC Assessment's preliminary assessment for this piece of property, the estimated 2024 property taxes for this portion of property would have been $13,012. The district's portion of that would have been $10,063. So with that 90% permissive tax exemption, that would reduce the estimated taxes to $1,301. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council. Any questions? Councillor Betts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave, can you tell me, with just comparing places like the golf course and the curling rink, outside of their food and beverage operations, what kind of PTEs do they have, if any?
So through the mayor to Councillor Betts, I just need to pull up the permissive tax exemption bylaw because it's all in there. But I believe the golf course gets a fairly substantial one. It's close to $50,000. Just give me a second, please. So in terms of the Golf Society, the permissive tax exemption they received worked out to about $53,265 in 2024. And I'm sorry, what was the second?
The curling club. And just, I'm also just looking for the percent, but the mayor said it was, they got the 90%.
Yes.
Is that both of them?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, when staff reviewed this permissive tax exemption, we did go back to all of the work that was done back in 2021, and the majority of not-for-profit organizations did receive 90%. There was one, there was the KVR Society that received 100, and I think there were a few others that received 75, but primarily the majority were getting 90%.
Okay, no further questions. Somebody wants to bring a motion forward? Councillor Patton?
As written.
Okay, second, Councillor Peak. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed? That carries. One Sky Community Resources Society, Ms. Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So our second permissive tax exemption application today is from One Sky Community Resources, and we are seeking council direction in terms of what to provide, if anything. When we reviewed this application, so the committee is registered as a society, which is a requirement under our policy. Their budgeted 2025 revenues and expenses are $15.8 million, and those are over 6 service functions that they provide. The application is for one property, which provides supportive housing for 2 individuals. So those are the kind of the highlights of their application. We did review our PTE policy as far as the work we did back in 21. So we're trying to determine again what category this application should be assigned. This was somewhat challenging as historically we have not received any applications from supportive housing or similar types of organizations. And additionally, over the past 2 years, council has received requests from 2 not-for-profit organizations requesting financial assistance for affordable housing projects here in town. Now, over those 2 projects, council has committed approximately $2 million to those projects for financial assistance. However, in both those instances, the requests for permissive tax exemptions were not supported. Now, so based on those 2 decisions, it would be consistent with council's previous decisions to deny this application. However, there is no formal recommendation in front of you. And so we are looking for your direction. Thank you.
Okay, council, questions? Councillor Betts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of the things that when I was really kind of digging into into our policy is that how, while it is a society, it's not an ongoing and active volunteer involvement. It seemed like there was 13 full-time employees, no, seven full-time employees involved. And the eligibility criteria E, principal use of the property is service delivery for the direct benefit of the community, which, I mean, I certainly honor that these individuals need the support, but it's not a benefit to the larger community. So for that reason, I hesitate.
Thank you, Councillor Trainer.
Do we know if One Sky puts Summerland residents in this home, or is it just whoever from the region needs a space to live?
So through the mayor to deputy mayor, I do not know the answer to that question.
Councillor Marco.
Suppose once they live there, they're Summerland residents. But I'm sort of in the same frame of mind as Councillor Betts here. And mostly because I'd like to be consistent with our thinking on these other projects. We've contributed capital, but not, not operating, ongoing permissive tax exemptions. And that's sort of, I don't know if there's a cutoff line or something, but it kind of puts it in a different light that it's only two individuals rather than a large project, which has a wider community benefit. So I'm kind of against it. So I'm a no.
Councillor Peak.
I agree with the discussion, both for non-volunteer involvement and the scope of the project of the proposal itself. And I do wish that we should stay consistent in our response to this kind of housing. So I would go with a no.
Okay, along with I agree with everybody, then the consistency is important. We don't do this for other affordable housing complexes we have in town. I also always see PTEs as in terms of, if we didn't provide them, would this be a service that people would expect the district to provide? And that's why you can argue a lot of the recreation services or PTs that we give out, if they weren't there providing those services, people would be asking the municipality to provide them, and it's more cost effective for us to provide a PTE to provide those services, which a lot of people would expect municipalities to provide, but this isn't. This is this is more in the provincial realm, and in a way where we're voluntarily accepting some downloading of responsibility by approving a PT for something that's not a municipal responsibility. Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move the alternative resolution.
So the bottom one there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, to deny. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Barkwell. Any further discussion? Councillor Trainer.
Do we know, do they have homes in other communities in the South Okanagan? I'm just wondering if other communities offer them a PTE.
Okay.
So through the mayor, I don't know if they're homes specifically, as they are here in Summerland, but I do know that they get PTEs in other jurisdictions. They do.
Okay, Councillor Park.
Just to sort of, my understanding is that they're a very large organization that has housing complexes, large housing complexes in other communities, and might be different there, but I think we will.
Councillor Betts.
I mean, just to kind of further the discussion, it's as our eligibility criteria is that the provision of services that are an extension or complementary to municipal services and programs. And I don't really feel that this is. It's complementary to provincially offered programs and services.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed, that carries. Moving on to Parks Regulation Amendment Bylaw, Director of Community Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is to implement 2 amendments to the Parks Regulation Bylaw number 2022-012 as a follow-up to council direction provided earlier this year. The first amendment is in response to council's decision to permit dogs on leash at Horse Beach, which was an outstanding item from the waterfront concept plan presentation. The amendment in the bylaw is to section 6.b to add Horse Beach to the list of park locations where dogs are permitted on leash year-round. The second amendment is in response to council's resolution in conjunction with the direction that the temporary off-leash dog park at Peach Orchard Beach Park become a permanent off-leash dog park, which is that the Peach Orchard Beach Park require dogs to be on leash year-round outside the off-leash dog parks. So the amendment in the bylaw is to section 6C to remove Peach Orchard Beach Park from the list of locations where dogs are permitted off-leash during the off-season from October 1st to May 1st. Dogs will be required to be on leash year-round when walking to both the permanent fenced off-leash dog park and the dog beach at Peach Orchard Beach Park, and signage will need to be updated to reflect this change. So staff are recommending that the regulation bylaw be given its first 3 readings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Worship. When we first brought forward the permanent dog park down at Peach Orchard, I felt that this was a bylaw that we could bring in that would appease those that were in opposition. But after speaking with folks down there, it seems that there's a bit of abuse of the bylaw resource that we have, where that bylaw is being called on a frequent basis and is actually going down and sitting at the dog park, watching people in the dog park. So I feel that if we were to change, the dog park to be on leash all year and not follow the rest of our parks from October until May, I feel that during the winter season or in those off seasons, that we would be spending even more time down at the dog park with our bylaw officers. And I truly do think that we have far more issues in Summerland than having a bylaw officer always down at the dog park. And I understand there's a point of contention. Don't get me wrong. I understand it. But to have, to use a city resource or a municipality resource in this regard, I feel is wrong. And for this reason, I will not support a year-round on leash down at Peach Orchard Dog Park.
Outside.
You mean
Outside the park.
not the dog
Not
park?
the dog park, outside the dog park.
Councillor Barkle.
Yeah, the Councillor Patton started me thinking about this. And like him, you know, and maybe most of us, we viewed it as maybe some kind of appeasement to the people who are opposed to the dog park down there. But I've now come around to the view that it's a pointless move, and that it's not going to accomplish anything by requiring dogs on leash all season there. It's just going to create headaches because people are used to that. They want that. And it's not going to do any damage by allowing it. So and it might do damage by requiring leashes by, as Councillor Pan said, numerous complaints because somebody has a dog off leash and they see it there in the winter and they figure, well, no harm done. And they're going to do it anyway. And so, yeah, I don't support that. I'm with Councillor Patton on that. I don't support this particular change. Although I must admit, I kind of nodded at the time when it came up.
Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, though, that I will respectfully disagree. And the primary reason being that, our residents also benefit from consistency, and that we've provided a really beautiful amenity down at the waterfront, and that the expectation is that your dogs are on leash outside that area. There's still families who go down to the park in the wintertime. And there's still days without snow. It's not like we live in, Alberta and it's -40, of which I'm well used to. But, I really think that it's important that we are sharing this park respectfully with all of the user groups. There is now a 1-acre dog park that you can throw your balls fully. We didn't cut the size down, and that you can go in there, and the rest of the area, other users can expect to not be around dogs running around. And I think that the majority of users will do that, and that it's good practice for year round, because May 1st, the expectation changes and people now are just going to start putting their dog on leash that are there all year round. I disagree.
Councillor Chair.
I agree with Councillor Betts. We did create a really nice park. And I don't think that there's an issue if you park your vehicle, put your dog on a leash, walk them over to this new, fenced area and then let them play. But I think if there's families or other people down in that area who also want to use the park and there's dogs running around outside of the park, it can be, those people might avoid using Peach Orchard Park, and it is for everybody. So I understand where you're coming from. But I think that for the rest of the users of the park, that it's fair that they can expect to be able to use that park without having, random dogs come up to them. And most dog owners are great, but every so often you get one that comes up to you, and it's just not comforting for everybody. So I will support the staff bylaw recommendation.
Councillor Peak.
I understand the reason why we're bringing this forward, and I think since we have made a designation for a 1-acre park, and I have to accept the fact that we have done that, even though I argued against it, that we be fair in terms of the fact that users in the park have to put their dogs on the leash year-round outside of the dog park. And I could say with grandchildren, I had a run-in, and we've had with off-leash dogs during the sort of winter season. And that made that child afraid of dogs for a long time. That's only one incident, but we are getting reports of people concerned about off-leash dogs when they're using the beach, the water park, and whatever. So I think dogs need to be on the leash unless they're in the fenced-in park. If you want your dog off the leash somewhere else, then go somewhere else. Don't be down there.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Worship. It's not that I don't agree. It's just that the resources that our municipality is going to spend, where we're going to have complaints, where we're going to be sending bylaw officers down there from October till May. Now, we're talking Peach Orchard Park. As soon as they get by the dog park that's at the water, are we going to consider Rotary Beach? Are we going to consider all of that as part of Peach Orchard Park? Are they going to be able to take their leash off their dog? It's not the question of on leash from October till May. What it is, it's the abuse of the municipal resources that is going to happen from October until May, where our bylaw officers, we might as well set up an office down at the Peach Orchard Dog Park for our bylaw officers. That is the question here. It's of the abuse. And if you remember, Councillor Van Elfen actually brought this up a while back in regards to bylaw complaints being lodged against some agricultural properties in regards to horses and horse buildings. And this came up back then. But in this regard, I do think that they're allowed anywhere in Summerland, but we're saying for walking your dog from the dog park to your vehicle, you have to keep them on a leash from October until May. And I think that is where we're going to be causing ourselves a lot of grief in the time to come.
Councillor Trainer.
Lori, can you clarify, right now, September, I know I should know this, but I don't. Can your dog be off leash? Okay, so they're on leash except for, so we wouldn't be really changing anything then. Or, we would just be taking away the off leash ability. Okay, so I hear what you're saying, but I think that the comfort of people who want to use that park without being a dog jumping on them. I mean, like, I wouldn't take my kids to that park if I knew that it was off leash everywhere, because my kids are afraid of some dogs. So I think you're, for the sake of, I don't know, bylaw having to go down there more often versus people in our community not going to that park because it's basically a free run for dogs. I think, we would be doing a disservice to a lot of people in our community. So I appreciate that there's a cost associated, but it's, that park is for everybody and the dogs have a great area to play. So I don't know. It's a hard one.
Councillor Val.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through to Lori. October till whenever, how many parks are involved in that? In our community that they become off leash?
Several. I'm just pulling up the bylaw right now. So the question through to Councillor Van Elfen is which ones are permitted off leash during the off season? So currently Peach Orchard Beach Park, Powell Beach Park, Peach Orchard Campground, Conkle Mountain Park, Cartwright Mountain, and Summerland Rodeo Grounds, except when there are equestrian events.
If I may follow up, then, let's leave it status quo. Let's leave it the way it is today, as an off leash, October till whenever. Just leave it be. Why are we changing it now? I know we talked about it prior to, but I have to agree with Councillor Patton and Councillor Barkwell because I think, even to this right now, we're getting all sorts of requests and bylaws down there looking at the dog park and we're wasting a whole lot of time and resources here. Leave it status quo, carry on.
Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, that was sort of my question too, which I think which parks are traditionally being off leash in the winter. There's quite a few, and I think if you want to talk about consistency, I think we should leave things the way they are, the status quo. There's been a dog park, temporary dog park on leash or off leash down there now for a couple of years. And it just doesn't seem like it's going to accomplish much to take that away. And I think that Councillor Patton has some insight to a war that's heating up and the potential abuse of the district's resources, which we've seen before in other situations and other ways. And this might forestall some of that by keeping it the way it is.
Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'm gonna take the other side of this discussion, and like Councillor, our Deputy Mayor Trainer is saying, is that there are other users of the park that I think are really important to consider in this. And it's not only about, I understand where you're coming from 100% with the bylaw, but the thing that I noticed that changed actually in having the dog park come down to Peach Orchard Beach. I used to go down there in winter. I'll go with my kids. And in the off season, you would have one user down there with their dog with the big launchers, right? You'd have that one person, but it's become an amenity. It's a dog amenity. Lots of dog owners and dog users are going down there now. It's not like it used to be when there would be one or two. There's times at Peach Orchard Beach at 7 p.m. each night where you'll have 20 people and dogs come down. That's what they do every night at 7 p.m. after dinner. Maybe that'll be 5 o'clock. But this is, if you have 20 people all coming with their dogs off leash, it's really it's not the same thing as it was before. It's become an absolute draw to people with their dogs, and there's a lot of them now. So I personally believe it's quite important to have them on leash outside of the fenced area.
So my take on this is that I don't really buy the bylaw resources argument. You know, you have one property that's an unsightly premises and it only bothers the guy next door, but huge amounts of resources are going into that one property and it's only bothering one person. You know, it's the comparison side. You might as well not have bylaws if you're worried about the resources about enforcing those bylaws. I think, you know, last winter, there was this perfectly good temporary dog park that we had set up there. And there were all these people running their dogs outside the fence. And that built a lot of resentment. When people just seeing that, you know, why have the dog park if you're going to run your dogs outside the dog park? If we want this dog park to be accepted by the whole community and not continue to be a source of friction, then I think this is the least we can do. Yeah, otherwise, we're just going to continue creating resentment. And the same thing's going to happen next winter. People are going to run the dogs outside the dog park, and people will be sitting there wondering, why are we spending all this money on a dog park when they're just running their dogs outside the dog park? So I think, you know, so I don't agree with keeping the status quo. But Councillor Betts, and then we need a motion on the table.
I was going to bring forward the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Peak. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? I'm in favor. Those opposed? 3 opposed. Motion carries 4-3. Okay, moving on to 9.5 Prairie Valley Road upgrades. This is our Director of Works and Infrastructure, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff have recently completed a request for proposal process for the Prairie Valley Road upgrade project. We did a full evaluation of the 5 proposals received and a preferred contractor has been selected. Total cost to complete the project without contingency are estimated at $3.39 million. This is just slightly over our budgeted amount of $3.377 million. Unfortunately, with construction projects, it's really important to have a strong contingency going into them so that we're not back to council every time there's any type of a change. In a typical construction project, we like to have between 8 and 10% contingency, and it's strictly contingency. If it's not used, then it just goes back to Dave to reallocate to other things. But that's usually a reasonable amount for any changes that might come up through the project. So we've got a couple of options on where to get the money from. Dave's put together the Growing Communities Reserve Fund as well as the Community Works Fund for funding the $287,500 that we're proposing for contingency allowance. The recommendation is that this be allocated from the Community Works Fund to provide that construction contingency. We've also put in an additional resolution that $62,500 be allocated from developer cash in lieu funding to the Prairie Valley Road upgrade project. This is essentially housekeeping. That was a number that, or an amount that we've been provided or will be provided from the local developer along that area for some earthworks. We just didn't have it in the budget back in November or December when Dave put the budgets through. So we've added that in as well. Happy to take any questions with regard to this, or if you need more information about the 2 reserves, Dave, I'm sure can speak to the 2 options there.
We just get the next item, agenda item on the screen. Yeah, no, that's good. Dave, were you going to add anything or no? Okay. Council questions? Councillor Vanel, you're moving?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Peak, any discussion, questions? Call the question then. All in favor? And none opposed, that carries. 9.6 strategic priorities amendment. Corporate officer, please.
Thank you, Mayor Holmes. So given the published council strategic priorities are a living document, it is anticipated that they will be amended from time to time with the updated versions posted on the public website to ensure community awareness. Since the last update on February 6, 2024, there have been conversations with council and amongst staff regarding the strategic priorities, including adding, removing, and clarifying priorities. So before council are proposed amendments to the plan, which include amending the timeline for the tennis court to reflect completion, amending the timeline for the rodeo grounds master plan to reflect completion, amending the streetlight design options projects to reflect completion, amending the timeline for the pier construction, again, to reflect completion, amending the timeline for the Four Season washroom for the same reason, amending the timeline for the Wharton Street power lines and electrical so that this project can be conducted with the larger Wharton Street project, updating the definition of the watershed to clarify the ongoing implementation of these plans, adding time to finalize sewer connections to key industrial areas, and adding the primary clarifier project as its own priority given its size, scope, and supports of sewerage in the sewer master plan, and amending the timeline for the distributed generation program. So that's what's included in what is before council and what would be supported by the resolution on the screen. However, we did hear this morning a few additional amendments from council, which include adding a sub-bullet of the multifamily commercial food scraps collection program, including a bylaw review for security cameras on private property, and adding a community arts policy with targeted stakeholder engagement to begin. So I will amend the wording of this resolution to just include these three things, but this is before council and we're happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Council. Councilor Malcolm. Seconder, Councilor Peak, any discussion? Kind of beat this to death this morning.
Yeah.
I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries. Now, items removed from consent. The two letters UBC, so UVCM, Councillor Betts. So A, we'll start with A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one was from the city of Duncan, and it's about basically police reporting statistics. And this community is just looking for support for their UVCM resolution to have the way that fail to appear charges, how they show in policing statistics. And I just think it's a community of a smaller size that's coming forward with a common sense resolution, and they need our support to resolve an operations solution that needs to go forward to UBCM. And that's the only reason I brought it forward is I think when we're going to UBCM, I'd love to know how we kind of think about our resolutions, and that'll probably come in our meeting upcoming about how we approach our voting and everything. But I thought it was interesting that they're reaching out to their larger municipality community to get support for a sensible change.
Yeah, I read this and I thought, oh, this is something I can support when it comes to UVCM. It doesn't really affect us because we don't have a courthouse here, but it's certainly something, worth supporting, I think. So, but, we all vote for our own conscience on the UVCM floor. We're not like some communities, which I won't mention, who decide to vote as a block, but Councilor Peak.
I appreciate other communities putting this correspondence out because it does create an awareness of things that will be coming forward at UBCM that I give some thought to. So I appreciate the fact that it was pulled out and we're more aware of it.
Okay, and the next one, B, Pitt Meadows.
Item B, I thought was interesting because the city of Pitt Meadows is in a similar situation as us, and they're looking to UBCM to help basically change the farm property tax system. And they've already done an extensive agricultural viability study, and they are 78% ALR land. So there were 3 different resolutions that they're bringing forward to try and increase basically land to be farmed, whether it's leased or owned. And there's an unfarmed land tax, there's a school tax exemption, and a minimum income requirement for farm classifications. And I just thought this was interesting, you know, with our resolution, which is so sensible, perhaps us sending it out ahead of time might as well bring additional awareness to more of the representation and who are going to be voting on our resolutions moving forward. But thought the city of Pitt Meadows kind of faced some similar challenges as us.
Yeah, I actually spoke to the mayor of Pitt Meadows at last year's UBSIM on the ag tour, and we were talking about some of these things. And I'm pretty sure at the ag communities meeting that we've organized, they'll be here for sure, and I'm sure they'll be speaking about this. But yeah, this is it's a really interesting resolution. Anyone else? Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to our Director of Finance. It's NR 92, minimum income requirements for farm classification. Is that not based on BC assessment?
So through the mayor to Councillor Van Alphen, my take on that is it has nothing to do with farm classification itself. It's BC, so BC assessment does have the thresholds, right? So if you're under 2 acres, I think you have to hit a certain dollar threshold of revenue, which I think is around 12.5 grand. Don't quote me on that. But if you're anything over 2 acres, it drops substantially to like $2,000 of revenue. So I think that's what what that NR 92 is talking about, is that minimum income threshold, which then of course, yes, drives the classification of the property.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next one, item F, food bank. Yeah, Councillor Peak.
Just to sort of clarify around the request, the food bank, because of the Turning Points project, we have to move out of our present position in the basement of the United Church. So we have temporary quarters in the Alliance Church. So for the time that we're in that area, which could be 2 years of construction, 2.5 years, we're looking for the opportunity for a bus stop up there for people that need to come to the resource services or the food bank. And so I'm looking to pass this on to staff to have an inquiry made.
Yeah, Councillor Chen.
May I ask you a question? You'd be able to answer, and your role is on the food board? Okay. Is there a lot of clientele that use public transit?
There are a fair number of people that do that.
But coming from where?
From the outer areas, and they use buses to where they've been traveling, and we have resource services available to them. We're concerned that the people that don't at present use the bus will need to get up to the Alliance Church, and we have a lot of people that don't travel very easily, or they're in handicap position. So we're looking for that opportunity for a bus stop.
Okay, I'm just struggling Handy Dart, that's one thing, but I'm trying to figure the number 30 bus. I think that's what's being asked to move, right? So I'm just struggling to think where they come from on the 30.
Perhaps I don't have enough detail to be able to give you that evidence. Perhaps staff could speak with our coordinator to support the reason we would be asking for that.
So you wish to bring a motion forward?
If I could do I have to do the motion, or would it be direction to have the letter go over for that consultation?
Corporate office. Motion would be
Then I'll put a motion forward for the opportunity to have a bus route located with a stop near the Alliance Church.
Okay. Does that work, corporate office?
Pardon me? Yes, thank you very much, Sarah. A temporary bus stop.
And through the mayor to Councillor Peak, sorry, I'm just drafting this. Are you asking council to vote on establishing the bus stop, or that staff be directed to explore the implications of the temporary bus stop?
To explore the implications of temporary bus stop. I can't anticipate what that would be.
Okay, do we have a second? Second, Councillor Betts. We could get that on the screen. So we know what we're voting on. Councillor Betts.
Just, I note that in the letter from the food bank, they requested the bus stop be located near the intersection of Turner Street and Victoria Road North, rather than specifically at the Alliance Church. Just, I don't know if that makes a difference. Just in terms of the bus routing.
Perfect. Looks good. Okay, so we have, it's on the table. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed. That carries. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that forward. And then I just need a motion to receive those 3 letters for information. Councillor Van Alphen, Councillor Betts, all in favor, and that carries. I'd like to resolution to close the meeting to the public pursuant to sections 91 C, E, and G of the community charter. Councillor Patton, Councillor Van Alphen, all in favor, that carries.